David Ellis Jones, who taught presentation and communication skills, once said that there's no such thing as a boring subject, there are only boring speakers. I will do my best not to be boring. Informing or persuading someone requires that they be interested in what is being said, and it's the job of the speaker to create that interest. So, fellow classmates, please join me, Bill Perkins, as I answer 3 questions about professional communication from chapters 11 and 12 for our Module 8 discussion. And I hope I create some interest in the subject along the way. Question 1. Discuss the difference between informing and persuading. When are you most likely to want or need to inform or persuade? Why should you know the difference? And use the text in your response. Chapter 11, page 278, discusses the difference between informing and persuading under the general purpose headline. When informing, you are acting as a teacher, relaying information. The goal is for the audience to learn something about a topic. Informing is about facts. You're not trying to convince someone about what to do or feel about the fact or even to act on the fact. You need to be objective and not influenced by emotions or a point of view. Avoid informing your audience about information they already know. It'll just bore them. You also must make sure that you are not talking over their heads with terminology or information that they have no basis to understand. Also, when informing, be sure to use a variety of sources and types of information in order to make your presentation more memorable. You want to inform as well as create a logical appeal. The audience needs to find the information interesting or applicable to themselves. Persuading is about acting as an advocate for or against something or making an argument. You are actively seeking to create a feeling or a desire in the listener. There are 2 types of persuasive arguments. Passive agreement, where you're simply trying to get the audience to agree or disagree with your argument, and active agreement, where you want the audience to take some action based on your argument, a call to action. You have to be aware of the underlying message you are trying to get across. Are you simply giving information, or are you trying to get some kind of response from the audience? Persuasive presentations are also more likely to get the listener emotionally involved. Your presentation should be organized as an argument, and persuasive appeals should be given throughout, not just at the end. Support your argument with solid, logical appeals and credible evidence, such as definitions, examples, statistics, and quotes. And don't forget to analyze your audience and be sure that your material is constructed to convince those who may not have formed an opinion or who may be open to changing their opinion. In order to prepare a good informational or persuasive presentation, you have to be sure of your intent. Mixing the 2 simply waters down the presentation and will leave the audience unsure of what your intent was. The next question I'm going to look at is number 3. Discuss and differentiate between the different types of reasoning one might engage in when trying to persuade. Use the text as a reference and be sure to cite it. So once again, if we look at chapter 11, pages 283 through 289, it discusses the different types of reasoning. If you've spent much time watching courtroom dramas on television, you probably recognize all of these. Reasoning is used to solidify your argument, to give it credibility, and to guide the listener through your argument. Deductive reasoning builds an argument by using general information and drawing a conclusion based on it. There's usually a major premise and a minor premise, and then the inference, an idea that combines or relates the premises to each other, such as all men are mortal. Harold is a man. Harold therefore must be mortal. Inductive reasoning uses individual pieces of information and then tries to find a conclusion, also called inductive logic. In this, you go from specific to the general. So you start by making observations, trying to discern a pattern, and then make a generalization with some kind of explanation or theory. Such as, I took a penny from the piggy bank, The next coin I took was a penny. The third coin I took was a penny. So all the coins must be pennies. Now, of course, this means inductive reasoning can give a false answer, because unless you look at all the coins, how do you know they're all pennies, really? Causal reasoning, or cause and effect, is a type of inductive reasoning. You are trying to demonstrate that a certain cause always has the same effect. This can be hard to do because different causes can have the same effect. So you and your evidence need to be credible. The authors recommend admitting to the audience that there may be other causes which could have the same effect, and then try to convince the listener as to why those other causes just simply do not apply in this particular case. An example of faulty causal reasoning is the belief in good luck charms. A baseball player believes that he's best when he wears his lucky socks, so he wears them at every game. If he does good, it's because of the socks. If he does bad, it's because he did something wrong in relation to the sock. He wore it inside out, he accidentally washed it, he forgot to put it on the left foot first, etc. Analogical reasoning is reaching a conclusion based on analogy, by comparing two or more similar things. The two cases or items must be similar. The more similar, the better. Since no two things are identical, the authors are once again recommending that you tell the audience and show them how the items are not identical, and then work to convince them that those differences do not affect the conclusion. So an example of this is the Earth has an atmosphere. Jupiter's moon Europa has an atmosphere. Therefore, there must be life on Europa. So you're using the similarity of the Earth has an atmosphere and life, and Europa has an atmosphere. They're similar. They both have atmospheres, so there must be life as well. The last form of reasoning, cognitive dissonance, is not actually a form of reasoning, but the authors chose to include it because it can be used to convince your listener of your argument's validity. Cognitive dissonance is the feeling of unease or discomfort caused by trying to hold on to two or more different, contradictory ideas, beliefs, or values. It's a feeling of being conflicted about something. For instance, if you do something that you know is wrong while making an excuse or trying to justify your action, you will later begin to feel guilty about it. The feeling of guilt will not end, because you have an idea of what's right and wrong. You know you did something wrong even though you tried to justify it. That's one example of cognitive dissonance. If you can create a sense of cognitive dissonance in the listener and then provide a solution for the listener, they will most likely be persuaded that that solution is correct. One way to create cognitive dissonance in your listener is to first discover their belief. What is their belief and past experience and attitude towards an issue, idea, or item? Second, commitment. Get them to voluntarily commit to their beliefs in a public way. Get them to nod and agree with you. Some form of public acceptance. Third, generate the dissonance. Show them how they have not kept up with their responsibility or engagement to the issue, idea, or item. And finally, give them a solution. Explain why your product, idea, service, or opinion can fix the problem. In other words, relieve them of their guilt. A good persuasive argument needs to have reasoning in order to convince your audience that your thought or idea is the correct one. It helps by giving them real-world examples to relate the idea you are trying to convince them about. It makes the argument more relatable to the person and understandable for them. Finally, let's look at question number 5. What is your overall approach to presenting, be it for class or work, and how much of the information in chapters 11 and 12 have you used, even if you haven't used the terminology of the text? And what would the authors say about your current presentation philosophy? I think the authors would be appalled by my past presentations. I can honestly say that in most cases I thought my goal was to inform my audience. Really, I should have been trying to persuade them. I think I most often resort to using a topical structure where the information is arranged in subtopics within a larger topic. This is probably related to my love of outlining with bullets and numbers. I like information that is neatly segmented and relates to each other. However, this type of presentation is boring. It's definitely not persuasive, and I think it can get overburdened with ideas, examples, statistics, etc. Now, I found Monroe's motivated sequence on page 306 to be very interesting. There's 5 steps. The attention step, grab their attention and engage them. The need step, establish the problem and the need for a solution. This is where you'd use some of that reasoning. The satisfaction step, provide the solution. The visualization step, help them to imagine the benefits of the solution and how it will aid them. And the action step, which reinforces the solution with a call to action. I think all of this is a great way to present a persuasive argument. I can also say that I really need to work on my introductions as part of my presentations. I guess I can no longer rely on the fact that someone has to be there, so they should just listen. Hopefully my introduction this week has improved, and I also hope you found the video interesting. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.